Hi, my name is Sohail. I am the founder of Soul and the host of the Oops, I Said God podcast. Today I'm here with a true luminary, a dear friend. We go way back, Michael Meany. What I love about this man is that he truly brings faith into action. And it is a profound inspiration for myself. And I said, I got to have this conversation with him to hear his story, because on the surface, you may see something, and then behind it, there's a profound story there that informs all that he's done. So what has he done? Gates Cambridge scholar at Georgetown, was a leader at Meta, did research at Cambridge University, but so much more than that. So much more than that. He's going to share with us what exactly he's doing, why he's doing it, and how his spirituality and faith inform all of that. So, Michael, thanks a lot for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. We made it.
Yeah, finally.
We made it. Yeah, we made it.
So we met, God, so many years ago.
Bring on the books.
Bring on the books.
Yeah.
Georgetown. So for the audience, so Michael was president of GUSA, the Georgetown Student Association.
Way back in the day. Yeah.
And I approached him at a Carol
That's
Fellow.
Right, the Carol Fellows program.
Yeah.
Another link.
Another piece, a program at Georgetown for overambitious youngsters.
That's right.
And I said to him, listen, I want to do a book drive. Would you help me out? And I wondered if he was going to be apprehensive. I have work, how passionate he would be. And you were really passionate. You were like, yeah, I want to do it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. We ended up raising tens of thousands of books.
Yeah, right.
For kids in underserved schools in DC, which is wonderful. So I'm really grateful for that. And then we ended up doing 95,000 books over the course of 10 years.
Yeah,
I love that. Know that
it's
number.
Astonishing. No, I love it. It's amazing. One of my favorite. And it's a marketplace, like in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a two-sided market.
Yeah. We reroute books from kids who have to kids in need. Tell me, how did you find your way to Georgetown? What was how did Georgetown's Catholic element play into your faith? And tell us a little bit of background about that.
Yeah. So I would say actually the Catholic identity of Georgetown was not one of the variables that was
really
pushing me to go there.
Okay.
I am from an Irish Catholic family, was in Catholic school my whole life. But I got over the church very, very quickly.
Yeah.
In middle school, I sort of declared myself an ardent agnostic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I didn't get confirmed. So this was and I credit my parents for encouraging me to follow my own convictions.
Yeah.
And I went to Georgetown because I love politics and I love public policy. And the Catholic identity was an additional feature that made me feel like more at home. It was comfortable and like I knew that space in that world, but it wasn't determining for me going there. But as faith, manifests itself in your life, it ended up being the most important part of my journey there, meeting the Georgetown Jesuits, having them rekindle my faith, and have them push me toward really deep internal questioning that led me back to God.
So I would love. This is very fascinating. So from that childhood, how did you get to that conclusion of agnosticism, right?
Yeah.
And then how did Georgetown change that? How did the Jesuits change that?
Yeah.
Like specifically?
Yeah. So it's a really good question. I think when I was in middle school, a number of things happened that inspired a deep skepticism, just kind of in my thinking patterns. Okay. So one is one of my very close friends died. He was a few years older than me, a very close family friend. And he accidentally overdosed on drugs, and he was 16, I was 13. Wow. And this was kind of like an earth-shattering event. And my parents, they split up like when I was in middle school as well, which was for sure the best thing. But it was also disorienting and sort of like disruptive, right? And then one of my best friends, who's still one of my best friends, this guy named Tim, was starting to read sort of like philosophy and like sort of atheism and sort of all these cool intellectual ideas. And so that was the context in which I started to challenge some of my faith presuppositions, I guess. And then, unfortunately, while my Catholic school was great, they didn't have good answers for some of the challenges I had to like church doctrine, which I've really now come around to understanding much better. But that was kind of like the milieu that I was in. And so I just said, like, I can't. It was as radical for me to claim like belief as it was to claim being an atheist. And so I just said, I'm straddling the fence explicitly. Yeah. I don't know. And like, I didn't think I needed it. And then I guess, there's this lyric in this song that says, have you ever felt so lost and alone that you invented a God of your own?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And for me,
can you say that one more time?
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah. Have you ever felt so lost and alone that you invented a God of your own?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize at the time that that's what I was doing, but I was a very sort of scrupulous kid. I wanted to follow rules. I wanted to get good grades. I wanted to do all this stuff. But then when things started to shatter, or as I got older and I saw the imperfections in the world, I had to develop an intellectual framework that allowed me to sort of justify that imperfection in the world. Mm-hmm. And so I found Nietzsche and Sartre and other sort of existentialists in middle school and high school that really kind of undergirded how I thought about the world. And that took me very far away from God in both my spiritual practice, but also my conduct and behavior.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's a long answer, but
no, it's a wonderful answer. It's funny in Sufism, there's a saying that God says, "I am what my servant thinks of me," which goes to that lyric.
Yeah.
So now I'm curious. Okay, so you were in this phase, and it's so funny because during that time, these things were really hot and coming. These types of arguments. I know Richard Dawkins was someone who
right,
had some popularity during that time. I remember even my classmates during that time made fun of me.
Sam Harris, Dawkins, Hitchens. I read a lot of Hitchens when I was in college as well.
So what happened?
Yeah.
What did it change? And it makes so much sense, by the way. Like we could reflect on that.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Before I know the audience would love for me to like, okay, what happened? But before we do that, do you think that the experiences, the hardships that you experienced, played a role of like, well, is there really a God? Is that true or no?
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, and something that I now believe deeply to my core is that is the unifying, animating question that I think all of us have and like are motivated by. Yeah. And we spend a lot of time in our lives searching for an answer to that question. And we might think that we land on secular humanism or Sufism or Catholicism or atheism or whatever. But it's all this deep search for, and I've always thought of it as like existential coherence. Like this, that's what we don't have, right? Yeah. Existential coherence, right? This sense of feeling congruent both within our bodies, our minds, our hearts, our spirits. And we spend our lives looking for the answer for that. And so my experiences in my life that were sometimes a resultant of external forces and other times a resultant of my own conduct, brought up those questions a lot because, there's trauma, there's pain, there's healing, but throughout all of that, deep down, there's this question of like, what's the point? Like, why am I here?
Yeah.
And, so I don't know if that answers your your question, but
Well, what I was wondering is, when something happens to us in life, we start wondering, well, am I loved?
right. Yeah.
Am
Right. Yeah. So I see. So that being somewhat of like a scrupulous, so I grew up with a speech impediment, a stutter, very bad stutter. And the psychological tax that had on me, and still does actually, and being familiar with a lot of people in the stuttering advocacy community, I know that a lot of people have this experience. Failure is your default mode because your mouth does not do what your brain wants it to do. So you are failing from the moment you start to speak. And so that presents you with this very difficult, like, I'm kind of a perfectionist. And so like, this is a very difficult contradiction to resolve. Right. And over time, questions like, what does that mean? Why is that my experience? For me, the concept of God was very difficult because free will and an omnipotent God in the Catholic tradition coexist. And then it was like, well, what's my own agency here? Why do I have all these things happening to me? How do I make sense of it? And so it was in a search for God that I left because I didn't find it. And I didn't have a language or a framework that said, here's how to integrate your life. Because just here really specifically, just because I don't think I've ever had this exact question before. It's interesting. And being someone who studies learning and human behavior.
Yeah, I probably could have done a better job for your introduction.
No.
I like a true educator at heart.
I appreciate it. I mean, we spend our whole lives seeking integration, right? It's that existential coherence, and we look for frameworks and things and families and friends and relationships that will give us that sense of integration. And so being young, having a stutter, wanting to overcompensate for that stutter, so getting good grades and being an athlete, having a hot girlfriend, partying, like being popular, right?
Yeah.
But then being a nice, sensitive person, like I've always cared about people that were left out and who are marginalized and things like that. How do you integrate that? And like Catholicism wasn't doing it for me as an answer. And like in middle school and high school and college, like existentialism did, because it gave, but it was a bleak integration. Like, I guess that's existentialism gave me an integration, but it was bleak because it and like maybe I didn't appropriately learn the existentialists who were joyful despite it, right? Sisyphus is happy. But like I had that integration, but I was unhappy and I still had an emptiness inside of me. And that's what the Jesuits tugged at. They were like, what's that emptiness? What's that emptiness? What's that emptiness? Why are you still acting in ways that aren't in accordance with who your aspirational self should be? And that was a profound question.
When you were speaking, I said, well, that's what makes you, in my view, so beautiful as a human, is that those two elements that you talked about, being sensitive and caring about others at the same time, being joyful, you said partying, et cetera. But, But I think the being itself is the integration. Because I was thinking about the leaves in fall, and I could imagine a leaf saying, no, I'm not doing drugs. I think of this stuff right now. But I can imagine a leaf. I can imagine a leaf saying, look at me. I'm a little yellow now. I'm a little like brownish now. What's happening to me? Like I'm not integrated.
Right.
I'm these different colors. And then on the outside, it's like, well, that's what makes you so beautiful. You are
Right.
That is integration in its essence, which is what a profound, in my view, if I may say so. View.
Thank you.
No, just not to validate me, but more of like that's such a profound truth, right? And so much of us were searching, and in hopes of finding integration.
Yeah.
And then we discover at the end of the day, oh, the whole time that was what it was. And so then it's learning to see that. But let's jump to the Jesuits, because this is interesting. The Jesuits have always been known to be a force of questioning.
Absolutely.
And so what ended up happening there? Okay, so you get into college, you're existentialist, nihilistic, all that other stuff.
Right.
No Kierkegaard just yet, but
not
the
quite
others.
yet. Yeah. So it's ironic. Georgetown has this class called The Problem of God, as you probably know, right? Oops, I said God, The Problem of God. They're of the same genre, right?
For sure.
And I read a book by Mircea Eliade, The Sacred and the Profane, taught by Bud Roof at Georgetown, who was just had a remarkable impact on me in that class, because it talked about faith as a limiting language. So there's like the things we understand in the world, and there's the things that we don't understand. And faith and religion, or the sacred, is this limiting language for all the things, right? Yeah. And that made sense to me. And it didn't answer the integrative question completely, but it was like, oh, that's a framework that I actually do understand intellectually, that I can, even though I don't, it is a limiting language, right? The framework implicitly says we don't understand, but it was at least a profound sort of conceptualization of it. And so that got me thinking more. And then the Jesuits at Georgetown, the thing that struck me the most is that I was a Carroll Fellow. I got almost straight A's, not perfect straight A's, but almost. I was the student body president. I worked on Capitol Hill. I, was super ambitious. I had all these dreams, and the Jesuits didn't care about that stuff. They just wanted to know about me, and they wanted to know why I wanted to do all those things. And I had this Jesuit professor, Matt Carnes, who I got a B+ in my first paper of his class, and I was
CPS.
It was. Yeah,
me too.
CPS. Where
I wasn't with him, but anyways,
no. CPS hard class. Excellent class.
Comparative political systems.
Yeah, comparative political systems.
CPS.
And I went in to talk to him about my paper, and he was like, I'm happy to talk about your paper, but I want to know more about you first. Why do grades matter so much to you? What are you looking to get out of this? How can I help you and guide you toward that goal? Because the grade is just sort of like a symptom in some ways of this underlying process. Let's talk about the process. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I became his research assistant. And he really, I dove deep into comparative analysis of political systems and serious kind of quasi-experimental methods, and that shaped how I approached the rest of my career. And I got an A on my next paper and an A in his class, and A still a big part of my life. But they didn't care about the top line ambitious stuff. They just wanted to ask me about me. And yeah, I mean, so that was hugely impactful. And then my drinking, I mean, so this is a huge part of my story. In the conduct part that I referenced earlier, I was drinking, I was partying like everybody else for the most part, but I had a very abnormal reaction to alcohol. I was a blackout drinker. And once I start, I can't stop. And I didn't think I was an alcoholic because I didn't drink every day, but then all these bad things would happen every time I did. And I fell down a flight of stairs, and, I ended up in the hospital, and sort of all these really tragic things. And Kevin O'Brien, another Jesuit at Georgetown, just sat me down and was just like, what's going on? What's driving this? What do you want? You have all these ambitions, you have all these passions, but you have this thing that is just tearing you down. Like, what's going on? Like, let's not talk about your grades and being the president and girlfriends, whatever. Like, why are you doing, like, what's going on? Because they saw it as like, this is an unintegrated person. This is a young man in desperate search for integration and looking in a lot of the right places, good grades, extracurriculars, friendship, all this, but also looking in all the wrong places, drugs, alcohol, partying, you know, frivolity, whatever you want to call it. A young man in deep search of integration and not finding it. But the outcome of searching, trying to answer this question can be deadly.
Yeah.
Because it can lead you down paths that literally kill you. And I was on the brink of that. And so I credit the Jesuits with just caring about me. And that was really profound and powerful.
2 point. I mean, it's so, as you're speaking, I'm so inspired by it because of how much that you've transformed and alchemized all of these narratives. I mean, it's clearly you did a lot of reflection on those moments, and also whether you're Catholic, Muslim, whatever religious faith one is, I profoundly respect the idea of using or coming from a perspective of the human person. I mean, the perspective of like, it's not just about the grades and the GPA, et cetera, but actually like, who are you as a human? And their faith, the Catholic faith, is driving that. Or any faith with God. If you want to speak to God, you got to talk about the human.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's very moving to me to hear that. Because what if you didn't go to a Catholic Jesuit like that? That's a really interesting question.
Yeah. And, Georgetown was not my top choice.
Yeah.
I wanted to,
John Glavin reminded.
Like everyone who applies to Georgetown, I applied to Harvard, But it ended up being definitely the right place. And, another thing that the Jesuits say is that God writes straight with crooked lines. And our lives often don't make sense as we're experiencing them, but looking back, if we seek integration, we can see through lines that like really matter.
And so in the moment, it's the faith. So tell me this now. So you're having these conversations, you're getting deeper. Of course, you're being seen. What it sounds like is you're being seen.
Yeah.
You're really being seen. Yeah. Right? These things that you were doing were ways you're being wanted to be seen, and they were really saying, well, let's get to the heart of it. I guess did that, and I think they know the answer, but how did that then lead to your relationship with God, where you're talking about existentialist and nihilism to now suddenly you're going through what you're going through?
Yeah. And every time I talk about this, I have a sense of how I experienced it, but then sometimes I sort of cook it up differently. But what I'm realizing now in articulating all of this to you, and I really appreciate the questions, is that, and again, like my stutter is still very mild. I mean, it still influences how I speak, but it was generally on the scale of stuttering, not too, like blocking, but it was very acute, like as a child. And M's are the hardest word for me to say, the hardest letter sound for me to say. My name is Mike Meany. So like every day on the first day of school, I'd have to stand up and say, my name is Mike Meany. And it's like 3 M's back to back to back. And the anxiety. And so I think why being seen mattered a lot to me and and I didn't know that I was searching for this, but I built my entire life around the things I did to overcompensate for having a stutter. So my being was what I did and like what I do and my grades and sports and being the captain and the president, all this stuff, because I didn't want to be the kid that had the stutter. Like that was just my core goal as a child was to not be known for that. It was to be known for everything else, and then I also have that.
Yeah.
And in some ways that was like fortunate. Like that set a fire in me that really motivated me to like move fast and like sort of go after things, right? But it didn't give me language, or I didn't have language to tend to like the tender soul of that kid who has a stutter, who like regardless of everything else that I was doing in my life, like it didn't matter. And like the Jesuits were like, I don't care. I don't care. I want to know about like that like tender soul.
Yeah.
And realizing that I had been ignoring or like under nurturing my inner life in some way was a profound realization. And then of course there's like the external signs. I was blacking out a lot. I was ending up in the hospital a lot. I would try to only drink wine or only drink beer or only drink liquor and still wake up in a different part of town. And you know, just very bad experiences. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, I have this internal movement happening within me that is like awakening to this deep longing for a much more integrated life that accounts for being a kid with a stutter and all the things that I talked about and all my experiences that can't be solved and sated by the things I'm doing externally. So there's this internal need of movement. And then externally, there were signs that like I was clearly not managing this part of my life particularly well.
Yeah.
And they were linked in that it was that dis-ease. It was that discomfort that I was chasing with alcohol. Because it was like, that was the part of my life that was not integrated. And so what ultimately happened, I mean, and of course this is now how I understand God in my life, but I wish I could say that I was like ready to get sober because I found God. But what really happened is alcoholism like just like beat me to a pulp.
Wow.
And the year after I graduated college, everyone else kind of moved on, started working, and I started working and it was great, but like I was still blacking out, I was still partying, and I just like, I couldn't put it down. And I had a number of really unfortunate experiences, some run-ins with the law. And yeah, like my first day of sobriety, I was in jail, as is often the case. But what happened in that moment in particular, was that I just was overwhelmed with a sense of like, oh my God, I'm going to die.
Wow.
Because I had driven my car in a blackout, and thank God nothing happened. I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't get hurt, but I woke up in jail and was like, I'm going to die.
Wow.
And it's I don't know who said this. It's in a movie somewhere, but the actor says, when God gives you direction, you must not hesitate. We spend our whole life searching for God, and we try to pray and discern. But then there are sometimes these moments where like, I feel like you get a direction from God.
Yeah.
And again, at the time I didn't appreciate it, but like I was so scared at that moment. I was like, I will do whatever I have to do to just live a happy, peaceful life so that my family doesn't have to like deal with me dying. And I went to an AA meeting like the next day, and yeah, that was March 3rd, 2013.
March 3rd, 2013.
Yeah.
It's like coming up.
Yeah. 13 years.
That's incredible.
Yeah. In a few days.
It's profoundly inspiring. I mean, the sense of course, there's the moments of darkness.
Yeah.
And then, but the resilience and to transcend and to do something, to take agency when something like that dis-ease seeps into one's life in that way, or reveals itself in that way.
And there are these moments I think of when like God kind of winks at us in life.
Yeah.
So, unbeknownst to him that day, Kevin O'Brien was in Arizona that day. And
So assuming this was in Arizona,
when
that
all
scene
this happened, and we were planning on having dinner that night.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so we like went out and had dinner. And I didn't share all of this with him at the time because I was filled with shame and stuff. But he remembers that I started talking about my alcoholism in a different way that night. And like he mentioned it that night. He said, "I've never heard you say that. Like that's real progress." And he was there for the alternative spring break trip that he and I created at Georgetown. And so there's just all of these synchronicities that I think you and like, I also don't have a conception of God where he's like literally intervening in your life, where like, if you are looking for a parking spot, God does not remove a car and give you a parking spot. We have this milieu of experiences in life, and what we're invited to do is to reflect and integrate and make sense of them. And when we find those moments of purest joy and peace and truth and depth of understanding, that is God. And that's the God that we have in all of us. And I appreciate you letting me go on this riff, but I know that part of our bond has always been approaching these questions, and Sufism has its own version of what I just said, right? And you and your sister have given me books on Sufism that I've loved reading and that I find so inspiring. But that's, for me, him being there, hearing that voice that day. I didn't get confirmed in the Catholic Church until 5 years later. But I eventually did go back to the church. But I was presented an opportunity, Mike, this is your life, make sense of it. And really try hard and don't skimp out. And, I worked the 12 steps, and that was also this framework of integration. And that's why my belief in God is the most important thing in my life.
It's so beautiful. It's so inspiring, and what I talked about in the introduction about this, translating faith into action, and you still were doing that even despite like what you were going through. There was, I know this because we worked together. I'm thinking of the Bring on the Books, and then I think of also the research that you did and education, and so for those who. I mentioned earlier in our introduction, Mike, it was the Gates Cambridge, right? Was blessed to be the recipient of that and get to go to Cambridge and do a PhD there. I was there too.
That's right. I remember. That's right.
I have to say that. I have to say that because it was a fun place. It's a beautiful place. It's a wonderful place for learning. Yeah. You just like, you're away from the world and away from London and you entered that and the whole story about education, right? And it's so beautiful because your story is actually one of education, if you think about it, right? So despite all that was happening, you still were, I want to do good, and which is just a testament to the purity of your own heart. How did that work? I mean, it's like it feels like almost two separate tracks. Yeah. Right. And we were talking about that integration element before. And then how did that realization of integration come about? Yeah. Of those two tracks of this internal life and then also, doing so much on the outward sense. Yeah.
So I feel in some ways I feel blessed that I have a lot of energy, and like I like being active and being productive, and that's And I had great role models in my parents growing up of that, extremely hardworking people. And I think for me though, and this is ironic, Catholic school really rubbed off on me, even though I rejected it.
It works.
Yeah, it works. It was like, you are not on this earth to serve yourself. You are not on this earth to serve other masters and other kings. You are on this earth for a greater purpose.
Yeah. And
that has been so clearly motivating for me, because, and I'm building my own company now. I've worked at Meta. My wife's a lawyer. I think doing well and having economic opportunity is also very important.
Of course.
But that for me has never been the end. And I rue the day that becomes the end for me, because I think that is, that's not out of a place of judgment either, I guess. I should say for me and my integrated self, that is not what can be my main motivator.
Yeah.
Because it caused all sorts of distortions and of other things.
Yeah.
So I always took the Catholic social teaching extremely seriously. And even in high school, when I rejected, getting confirmed and sort of became an existentialist nihilist, Catholic social teaching, and Morales was my social justice teacher, had a huge impact on me. And I started a charitable organization when I was in high school. I've always been interested in how we can better design systems to reduce suffering in the world. And that's kind of been my mission in life, and Georgetown and my PhD gave me analytical tools to help understand and investigate those systems and how to build those systems. But it's always been predicated on how can we maximize human flourishing? Because that is our purpose here.
Yeah.
And that I do attribute to Catholic school, and was always very motivating for me. And then I think honestly too, the stutter, I didn't like being left out. I didn't like being made fun of. I think that's corrosive. I think it's cruel. I think it's bad for the people that do it. It's bad for the people that happens to. Yeah. Exclusion as a, sort of predominant principle in our world, I think is extremely harmful. And so that's always motivated me and sort of my work. And then honestly, it was again, the Jesuits were pushing me on this. It's if that's your motivation, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Why are you still drinking and partying and treating people badly and being, frivolous, whatever? A cad is what someone called me once. I just relationships and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it was rooted in fear. It was rooted in disease and discomfort. And it was rooted in selfishness, but not in the selfishness that is, I think how people think about it as oh, this person's so self-centered. It's that your disease and your discomfort and your pain become the predominant thing that you are solving for in your life. And that is what causes you to do these selfish things. But I wanted to change the world and have this positive impact. And so that was the disintegration. And then the Jesuits were this is way more you. And there's other answers for your pain than just drinking. And that's kind of how I tried to integrate it.
So it sounds like it was over time. What I'm hearing is that after Georgetown, of course, after that moment in Arizona, there was this integration and healing that was happening. And it was, I'm going to guess, because you didn't mention it directly, but I'm assuming AA played a role in that as well. The 12 steps, you did allude to that.
Absolutely.
Played a role to that as well. And then so where are we today?
Yeah. I mean, and I should say, like, they also say this frequently in AA. God brings you to AA, and AA brings you back to God, and that is 100% what happened in my life.
Yeah.
I had a lot of the inputs from the Jesuits in Georgetown,
Yeah.
but it was like AA that, and there's some misconceptions. Some of my best friends in AA are atheists. You don't have to believe in a Christian God.
Yeah.
You just have to believe that you are not the highest power in the universe.
Yeah.
And of course, no one sort of consciously thinks they are the most powerful thing in the universe, but the logical conclusion of existential nihilism is that we are all gods. Have you ever felt so lost and alone that you invented a god of your own? We invent gods of our own, and they are us.
Powerful.
And you have to concede to your innermost self that you are not the highest power.
Yeah.
And it can be the ocean, right? Who's stronger than the ocean? Who wants to confront the ocean?
Yeah.
It can be your family, right? Any of these things. And they say that everyone in the world should work the 12 steps. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah. I actually read sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No.
I read a book by, I know these days he's a little bit controversial now, but Russell Brand put a book out many years ago.
No, right.
And I thought it was really wonderful. And it was about the 12 steps, but also from a spiritual angle.
Right. Yeah.
So I completely agree. And so,
yeah.
And so a lot of this is informing. You talked about like now being this like this state now where really what matters most to you in your life now is your belief in God, your relationship with God.
Yeah.
How has that informed what you do today?
Yeah.
I know you got married a few years ago. Not many. Sounds like you're 70 years old. Many years ago, 10 to, but that it played a role, of course, in your relationship with Lizette.
Yeah.
And then also, the work that you're doing today. So I'd love to hear about that because it's really meaningful.
Yeah. So I try to integrate all these pieces in my life, right? And after doing my PhD, I went and worked at Facebook, and we built the largest employment tool in the world, the Facebook Jobs product. It served over 200 million people, and 90% of them didn't have a college degree. So these were people looking for economic mobility, and I loved that work. And then I went to a company called Multiverse, which is building a digital apprenticeship platform, and it's helping people flourish. And I loved doing that stuff. And I also simultaneously felt a longing and a hunger to build something of my own. That's always something that I've had in me. I mean, I started organizations as a young person. I led organizations as a young adult. And I think harnessing the power of capital and technology, like that which I saw at Facebook, right? The most brilliant minds in the world building the most astonishingly scaled products that we've ever seen. Like, what if we could harness all of that and deploy it against these like massive social challenges? So as I was thinking about starting my own company, I never thought I would end up in healthcare, but one of my friends, ironically, again, this is God winking at me, the guy whose first fake ID I used, my first fake ID, he was a social worker working at these inpatient hospitals. And he was like, dude, peer support is this reimbursable service, certified peer support. Medicaid 30 or 40 years ago said, AA is the gold standard. Not everyone wants to go to AA. How do we take that out and make it a reimbursable service? They made certified peer support. It's the highest ROI intervention for addiction and mental illness. But it's not organized well. It's not scaled. There's no platform that has it. And my friend was like, we should build that. And I was like, oh my God. Like, he called me the week that I left my last job, and he didn't know that I had left. Like, I hadn't announced it. And I hadn't talked to him in years. It was just like a serendipitous moment, right? These like synchronicities. And I thought I was gonna go build something in the employment space because that was my world.
Yeah,
Right. We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
And as I sort of de-risked the markets for each of these things, and I
Yeah.
saw how behavioral health care in America is just tragically undersupplied, and it's not supplied well, and it's a lot of money, very bad outcomes. So we set out to like build in that space, and so now I run a platform that has certified peer support specialists on one side, people struggling with addiction and mental illness on the other side. We partner with their providers. We augment their care by offering them access to our platform on nights and weekends. So nights and weekends is the big gap that we fill.
Yeah.
The emergency room and crisis care centers are the only places for people to go at night.
Wow.
People with substance abuse and mental illness, nights are the worst time, and they escalate and they end up in the ER, and it's very inefficient. And so there's a number of people now that instead of going to the ER, they utilize our platform every night to de-escalate. And one of our members, their crisis encounters are down 85% year over year.
Wow. That's a big,
it's
big impact.
massive. It saved the system a huge amount of money. But it's more importantly, radically changed her life. And now she calls in every night, talks to a peer, and just de-escalates. And I get why this works because my doctors and nurses told me I should get sober. And you know, I was like, yeah, tell me about it. Like, I know, how, you know, and it wasn't until I met a peer who became my sponsor in AA that I learned how. And so we're just taking that insight, and scaling it. And then AI is what enables us to happen at scale, because you can qualify supply and you can qualify demand and quality control supply at scale through AI.
Yeah.
So we prepare our members. If they need to talk to a human, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just need asynchronous engagement, right? And over time, that will scale much, much larger. And then we can quality control our peers with AI. So making sure that they're high quality, they're on time, they're detecting when people are escalating. And we have this unique data set that no one else has to power our AI tools. And so this is right now the ultimate synthesis, the most integrated kind of version of the things I've done.
It's really inspiring to hear the whole, like, to where we are today, the impact, how many people can benefit from that. I know we're getting closer to time here, but I do want to say that your whole story has been so profoundly inspiring. Your resilience. I'm so blessed to know you as a dear friend and to have you a part of my journey as well. That's a whole.
I know. Well, this is the thing I was thinking. Like, we gotta let me come back and interview you. Like, has anyone done that yet?
No, but I would love for you to do that because you're great.
And you're sitting here asking all these questions, and I haven't gotten to ask you your like reactions and reflections on it.
I can tell you. Want me? I can tell you some of them for sure. I mean, I think what I was really just first of all, I was taking it in, but I think what was profoundly inspiring to me is the resilience and the pure-heartedness that was there. It's like and I think it's a testament. As you were speaking, I was wondering, what do I say? And not just asking myself, like asking God, like, what do I say to? Because I'm so awe-inspired by your story.
Wow. Thank you.
And what you went through. And maybe that's why God said to the angels to bow down to Adam in heaven. And angels said, why should we bow down to this human you created? They're going to create bloodshed. They're going to do wrong. He said, they know that, I know something you don't. And I can see that being the reason your story is an example of why those angels would bow down to human, because to see that resilience, the transformation, the grit, the passion, the pure heartedness, the love. You know, you're a tribute to so much love, and you know
Totally.
that.
I mean,
And
right.
and just to see that, and then to come in this way of flourishing your own being, and then flourishing the beings of others, so that it ripples to more and more individuals, is the embodiment of an integration of divinity, in my view.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's my reflection and
Wow.
reaction to that.
Wow. And did you, well, first, thank you. I mean, that was it's extremely powerful reaction. And I think thinking about divinity as kind of integration is really powerful and beautiful. Was it always a straightforward journey for you with Sufism and your own belief? I know that it's had some twists and turns.
Yeah. I mean, when I was growing up, I always wanted to be one with God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like wow.
4 years old, you know, I went to, because I
Wow.
remember
When that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. You wanted to be one with God.
Yeah, I had an intimate
had that
relationship.
deep-
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very distinctly. I remember. And I remember I going to my dad saying, "Oh, I want to be a prophet when I grow up," just because I thought prophets were good people. Like that's
Yeah.
what the paragon of goodness was. The first, I remember maybe it was the first memory I have of my mom reading a book to me was the story of the Israelites and Moses parting the sea, and I felt such a kinship with Moses. And then, but my own faith journey, understanding who God is, had to go deeper toward the mystical side of things, and that happened during college, actually. So during our Georgetown years,
Wow.
I was investigating, like, how can I really get to know God, not just pray, because I did a lot of prayers and fasts up to 18, 19 years old. Like that was my my diet, so to speak, of how I felt intimacy with God.
Wow.
And then ended up meeting somebody. This is like just a fast, short version of it. Meeting somebody who I was interested in, like crush. She was atheist. I wasn't. Of course, for me, God is central for my life, or that divinity. I wanted to share that in a partnership. I decided to have some space from her, but that ended up opening something in me, which is my faith, or my desire to be one with God, like deep, deep, deep desire for God. Just like you were leveraging other things like alcohol, that experience for me showed me, my desire for love, like human love, was actually really a reflection of my desire to be one with God. So what I need is how can I really get to know God? If God gives me that blessing and or at least see a glimpse of his face.
That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I think it gives me a new language too, in some ways, of what I was seeking, right? I mean, integration, call it like whatever you want, but it is like oneness with God.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I mean,
of course. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, have you done one of these where like you get interviewed by someone?
Well, I did one. I think it was episode 4 or 7.
That was your
just
solo
me.
one.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, where I
remember
kind of
that
tell
one.
a little bit of the story.
I love that.
So
it's powerful, and I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't reflect a little bit on the love that was in my life. Like the one constant thing that was unbounded just in my life was just being set on all sides by people who loved me profoundly. And my first day of sobriety, the first person I called was my best friend Greg. He comes and celebrates my sobriety birthday with me every year. He's a Georgetown guy.
Yeah.
My family were frustrated and annoyed, but they never sort of like gave up. My friends. So loyal, and then ultimately meeting Lizette, who,
Mike's wife, by the way.
yeah, that is my wife. When we first met, and of course, I mean, she friend zoned me at first, which is, as all good relationships should start. And but the first time we hung out as friends, it was like she didn't care about everything I had done. She just asked me questions about me, and she made me feel seen in that way. And I could do a whole episode on that part of my life and how that's changed my life. But the abundant love of God for me has been clear in my life. I just didn't always recognize it. And that's the sort of invitation, I think. Like, it's an invitation to just intentionally reflect and discern and identify these things in our lives that bring us closer to oneness with God. But I think it is like the oneness with God is such beautiful language.
Yeah, that's really, we could go on. I have a lot I could share with that.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you again for coming today, for sharing your story, for your vulnerability and who you are, your example. And I'm so excited for all that it is to come. And thank you for being who you are. Love you very much. We'll always love you, and we'll be always rooting for you.